From the back of Christopher Pike's wheelchair, it's the IGN Digigods. So please welcome two fuel-injected suicide machines, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
So jumping right into the show, The Wolf of Wall Street is a great big pile. All right, next movie.
You didn't. That's not true.
You like this?
You know what? I remember I called you after the screening and I said, "Wait, this thing is 3 hours long," and I think there was like a Tuesday from 1992 that they didn't hit on in this movie. It's so long,
Yeah.
But you know what? I have mellowed on it because I just think that not that Scorsese is condoning the behavior of the DiCaprio character. I just think he is giving you a front row seat at the circus, and that's it. I don't know that he's really passing judgment on it.
How was your week?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you didn't like it?
Well, we'll get into that in just a moment. But in
Wait, we just got into it now.
I know, but it's like a teaser. See, it's suspense. Then we
So
get back to it
so
later.
let me get this straight. So
Yes.
you said it sucked. I said I kind of warmed on it.
And then
where's the suspense now? It's
And
over.
the suspense now. Well, the suspense now is just for a second. I want to talk about all these freaking layoffs at the studios. Sony's laying people off. Disney's already laid a bunch of people off. These are not good times.
Because soon what's going to happen is every studio will make one $500 million movie a year.
And they'll charge $10 million per
Yes.
ticket.
Yes, and it'll star every A-list actor in Hollywood
Yeah.
playing a comic book hero.
No, it's just every week there are these new bombshells that just really I find very disturbing.
Well, you know, there was an article about, this is not studio related necessarily, but there was this article about how a lot of visual effects work
Yes.
is all going overseas.
You know, there was a really, really good editorial on that, which was, I guess, what was it on the Wrap? From an effects guy, and it was long. I mean, it was really long, but it went into all of the elaborate details about what the problems are in the effects world. It's very, very interesting because we all hear about, oh, well, you know, they're all low bidding and so forth and so on. But it really was very, very illuminating, and it you know kind of proposed. I mean, what I didn't realize was that there's nuclear option. Do you realize this? There's this nuclear option now that they're pushing for to actually where you can slap import duties. You can punish people for shooting their films in other countries and in other states and so forth. You aware of this?
I am not.
It's interesting. The MPAA is obviously opposed to it, but the idea being that, as I understand it, people can correct me if I'm wrong, and I didn't even realize this existed, but the effects companies are basically pushing, and a lot of the other guilds are pushing as well, that if a movie goes and shoots overseas, in particular, I'm not sure how this would play with subsidies or with tax credits and incentives within the United States between different states. That's more of a domestic issue. But if you're going overseas or into another country to shoot because of incentives, there is a way that the U.S. Trade Representative, I guess, can punish that production by slapping all kinds of duties on it and basically just killing the incentives overseas.
So instead of making it, so they're going to not make it easier to shoot here, and they're going to make it harder to shoot over there.
Look,
Who wins?
What was interesting in this editorial was that he said, he pointed out, he goes, Democrats love it because blah, 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 blah. Republicans love it because blah, blah, blah. But Democrats also hate it because, and Republicans also hate it because. So he laid out a very interesting political case as to why both Democrats and Republicans love doing this but also have apprehensions about it. And that it's meaning that it comes with a lot of baggage, and people don't select to do this lightly. So you know, movies are hurting. It's bad times. Which brings us back to The Wolf of Wall Street, which is now out in a Blu-ray, DVD, digital HD set. And by digital HD, I mean it's ultraviolet. And you know,
here's what I'm gonna say, Wade, because you don't know what to say about it. I am liking DiCaprio more and more. He's starting to grow into himself. I think he carries every second of these 3 hours.
He still annoys me, but
he's starting to turn. He's starting to get a little older, maybe a couple wrinkles, not as young and beautiful anymore. That makes him interesting. I liked him in it. Again, I think Scorsese is just giving you a front row seat at the circus, and it was a circus. And it's a long film, but there's a lot going on. And the woman who plays DiCaprio's wife, I don't know where she came from, but she's fantastic.
She's like Danish or something like that.
She held the screen with DiCaprio and
she did.
It's Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
McConaughey and Kyle Chandler, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, as DiCaprio's father, Rob Reiner.
Pretty great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you know what?
She's Australian, Margot Robbie. She's Australian. What am I thinking? Yeah, she's Australian.
Now, I still think that the film doesn't necessarily scream Scorsese. I still feel like this is not Scorsese at his trenchant and best, but it's still a good film.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
What's the thing?
I find it to be I think Scorsese has a problem. And I think Scorsese is attracted to subject matter where he doesn't see the totality of the movie. He thinks, oh, that scene would be so much fun to shoot. Oh, that would be just a great scene. And he gets addicted to individual scenes and individual concepts and lines. And I think he just sort of sees the punctuation marks and not the complete essay. I think he loves the punctuation. And the first thing that occurred to me in this movie, there's about the 2-hour mark, where it just collapses. It falls off a cliff. Like the pacing of this thing is gangbusters until the 2-hour mark, and then it's like it just hits a pool of mud in the last hour. It just moves so slowly. And I remember thinking, this feels like they were trying desperately to fine cut this thing before release, and they only got 2 hours in, and then they were just like, screw it. We got to make our release date, so we'll just leave the last hour flabby as it is, and
there was a bunch
release it as a 3-hour movie.
There was a bunch of mismatched cuts in this thing.
Oh my gosh!
I mean,
it's all over the place.
And the thing is that for the average person to notice that, it's. I mean, I'm sure he just shot the crap out of it. He had a tough release date.
That said, I will say this: Matthew McConaughey steals this movie. He has one scene. He's on screen for 6 minutes? It's a 5-minute, 6-minute scene.
Yep.
He kills this movie. He steals the whole thing. He just absolutely kills it. Steals it from DiCaprio, steals it from Jonah Hill, steals it from everybody. And but I don't think it's a good script. I don't think it's particularly well directed. It's flashily directed, and I don't get the point. It's like Hookers and Blow, the motion picture. Go do it.
It's a cautionary tale. A bad guy.
It's not cautionary. It's not cautionary. He doesn't get his comeuppance. He's at the end of the movie. He's doing it all over again. It's like Hookers and Blow. They rule. It's awesome. Go get some. That's like I don't have to be it doesn't have to be a morality play. I don't have to have like a lesson taught to me, but there has to be a point. And there's sort of no point. It's just like, hey, these guys did a lot of Hookers and Blow and they made a lot of money and all right. See you, bro. I don't it just doesn't really go anywhere, but whatever. Lots of extras on this thing. Gobs and piles of extras. So, I mean, yes, it is what it is. No, there's basically a special feature on here called the Wolf Pack, which is it's fine, but let me put it this way: this also will come out with and when I say gobs and piles of extras, I mean there's like none. This also will come out with a double dip. So
Wade, would you like a piece of a Swiss roll?
A Swiss roll?
Now, last week I gave you
yes,
these snickerdoodle cookies and some chocolate sorbet. Did you like them, yes or no?
Yes, I did, very much.
Okay.
Yep.
So I made a Swiss roll.
Go get it.
Now, I have to. I'm going to caveat this.
Okay.
I don't like them.
Oh, really?
Yes. This Swiss roll, I think it's a big Swiss roll and you chop it up into little pieces.
It's the problem you have with the Swiss.
It is true.
Okay.
I don't think it's very good, but if you like it, that's fine.
Okay.
I will get you a piece.
Go get one. I'm going to blow through a few films.
Oh, you'll blow all right.
I'll blow through a few films while you're at it. Kaya Scodelario and Jessica Biel star together in The Truth About Emmanuel. This is one of those, Jessica Biel deserves better product than this. This is a little independent film. It's released by Well Go and was originally part of the Tribeca Film Library. I'm not quite sure by what arrangement both of those companies are involved in this, but anyway, it's about two women. Kaya Scodelario lives next door to Jessica Biel, who's kind of weird, and Kaya Scodelario gets is a little bit fixated on her because she looks like her mom, who died sometime previously, and the thriller kind of goes from there, and it gets a little bit ridiculous. It doesn't quite play, but the suspense is okay. So it's an interesting film. It's on Blu-ray. Don't expect a lot, but if you like the actresses, it's I guess it's probably worth a rental. Alpha and Omega 3, The Great Wolf Games, is available only at Walmart because the Walmart people are the only people that would actually probably know that there is a third Alpha and Omega movie. This was directed by Richard Rich, who, of course, is one of those ex-Disney animators who has tried to sort of start his own animation empire. He did a number of very Disney-esque films in the years, going back probably to the early 90s, including The Swan Princess, which did okay. Anyway, this is perfectly serviceable, but I don't see why anybody... I mean, the original Alpha and Omega, not that big of a deal. I'm not sure why they're on to already a third one. Bunch of little kiddie-oriented things here. This is a Blu-ray, DVD, and ultraviolet combo. Again, only available at Walmart, since that's the core audience for this thing. And then, before I try this thing that Marcus just put terrifyingly in front of me...
I don't really like it, though, but you tell me if you like it.
All right, well...
I hope you do.
Welcome to the Jungle...
It's a Guns N' Roses song.
Yeah, not here. The Welcome to the Jungle is a very strange movie. Adam Brody and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Rob Hubel really anchor this thing. Dennis Haysbert shows up for about 16 seconds. You know what this is? This is like Office Space meets Lord of the Flies by way of Gilligan's Island.
If I see another movie where Lord of the Rings meets Gilligan's Island meets...
Right. So here's the thing. Jean-Claude Van Damme is becoming a pretty funny guy in this second phase of his career. He plays a guy who basically, he's kind of this fraudulent douchebag who does these survival what would you call them, clinics. It's like a survival exercise for corporate office drones. Like you get out of the office and you go and you kind of work out your issues on some like little island survival deal, and you're supposed to develop leadership skills and all that kind of crap. Of course, it turns out he doesn't know what he's doing, and everything goes haywire. And next thing you know, everybody from the office, including Adam Brody, who's like the Office Space guy, and then Rob Hubel, who's the imperious douchebag in the office who always takes credit for everyone else's work. Suddenly, everybody is trapped on the island, and all of the office politics get turned into kind of a Lord of the Flies situation, and it goes completely absurd. And the next thing you know, there are two factions, and Rob Hubel thinks he's a god, and half of the people are worshiping him as a god, and it just goes completely off the rails. Very broad comedy. It makes no sense whatsoever. And Adam Brody is doing his very best. Rob, what's his name? The guy that was in Office Space.
Rob. Corddry.
Yeah, he does the best impression of that guy. Yeah, whatever his name. That guy.
Rob.
The Office Space guy, whose name I can't remember.
Steve.
Anyway, you know what? It's a silly movie. It just makes no sense. But it somehow it wins you over in a strange, bizarre way at the end because everyone is just so completely off the rails. So even though it's dumb, I can't totally dismiss it because it almost became like a guilty pleasure at a certain point. Nothing here by way of extra features, just behind the scenes and deleted scene stuff. Blu-ray and ultraviolet, and maybe ultraviolet's the best way to watch this thing, I guess. I don't know. All right, Markle Sparkle. I'm going to eat this thing now, right?
You are, and you have to tell me what you think of it. And please, be honest. This is I realize I should be taking photos of these things and putting them on Facebook. Why am I not doing that?
I don't know.
It's kind of too late. What kind of dainty bite is that?
Well, you told me you didn't like it.
Well,
that scared me because you like everything.
I mean, not that it tastes like crap. I'm just saying that it didn't come out as well as I wanted it to. I thought it would be something different.
There's like a marzipan thing going on here, right?
The cake has a bunch of almond paste in it.
It's good.
Really?
Yeah.
Phil loved it too. Everybody who's tried this has at least liked it or loved it. I'm like, man, it's okay.
It's good.
No, seriously.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Water. More water, please.
Well, how am I going to talk about these movies? I'm getting you water.
Okay, no, do the movie. I'll go get water. I'll get water. You talk about it.
You really like that?
Yeah, I do.
You want another piece? I'm trying to get rid of it because I don't like it.
You know what? You're going to turn me into a fat pig. I'm going to be doing the show with like a girdle on. I'll get water. You talk about those.
Oh, my God. Okay, the Geography Club is a movie that's not very good. It's about this teenager who is gay. He goes out on dates with girls, but it turns out that he's having a relationship with the local high school quarterback. And And, of course, it's very empowering in that sense. And if you are interested in that topic, either from a personal standpoint or political standpoint, then Geography Club is definitely something you should check out. I personally thought that this subject has been covered better and more maturely in other films. But there you go. The cast includes Nikki Blonsky, Anna Gasteyer, Scott Bakula, and that's basically it. So, again, Geography Club telling an important story in a way that I feel like is not that important. That's what I think of that. Wade, did you have your water?
I got my water. I'm back.
Larry Fessenden brings us a movie called Beneath. This is one of those. This isn't.
Larry Fessenden has the most interesting career.
Yeah.
And by interesting, I mean no one's ever heard of it.
Well,
but he keeps making movies.
He really does. But these are sort of like sci-fi-ish movies. You know what's funny? I read an article about the Sci-Fi Network, and they said that sci-fi is going to start moving away from all
Sci-fi?
the cheesy. No, well, they're going back to sci-fi. They're going to start moving away from all the cheesy. Now, Sharknado, they'll still have a Sharknado every year because Sharknado is such a social media phenomenon. But all the other ones, those cheesy sea movie adventures with dinosaurs in the desert or something, they're going to dump all those because they want another Battlestar Galactica. They want another water cooler show, a serious water cooler sci-fi show. So they're dumping movies like that. And Beneath, I think, would be one of them because it's about a bunch of kids who they fight for survival against this weird, crazy thing in the ocean. They're on a boat, no oars. Crazy monster in the ocean, and there you go, Beneath. It's ridiculous. I mean, come on, people. How do these movies get made?
I don't know.
You know what? Right here, AFM. This was all over AFM.
I know.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Finally, we have Best Friends Forever, and this is a bizarre little culty film. It's funny. The back of the box explains it as a post-apocalyptic Thelma and Louise, and there's definitely something there. Anyway, it's about these two girls who wind up on a road trip to Austin, Texas, and as they drive away, the world is destroyed by a nuclear apocalypse, and but they're going anyway, and they're going to survive. So it's a dark comedy, got some funny stuff, not a great script in terms of one-liners. It's a little bit too all sarcastic and ironic, and that's kind of like a dead beat for me. But there's some funny, funky stuff in it. Directed by someone I've never heard of, named somebody. Brea Grant, who, maybe she might graduate from this to something low budget as opposed to no budget. But this little thing called Best Friends Forever is it's kind of interesting. If you like underground films, never seen films that kind of will surprise you, maybe Best Friends Forever of the three I just talked about. That's what I'd go for.
Totally. All right.
Okay.
Our giveaway last week was the movie that I'm going to talk about right now, Angels in Stardust. Starring Alicia Silverstone, who's now playing moms. Isn't that weird? Alicia Silverstone is playing moms.
There was a moment, and the moment lasted for about 5 years, where she was hot.
Was it that long? She was She was Batgirl, and then it was over.
That's true.
Anyway, she's really good in this, and I'd forgotten how much I can actually enjoy Alicia Silverstone when she's not trying too hard. And the idea here, it's a coming of age film, young girl in this kind of out of the way town. Stardust is the when they say Angels in Stardust, Stardust is the name of the town where this drive-in used to be, and there I want to say this is a little bit like Field of Dreams. There's a Field of Dreams quality to this, and I'll only leave it about that. Billy Burke plays this cowboy who's sort of the everything the whole mystery of the thing centers around him, but it's a really solid film, good family film. And I think the three people who have now been alerted as winners of this DVD are going to be very happy with it. Really, quite a sweet film. Hopefully, this does something for Alicia Silverstone's career and gets her a little bit of traction again, because she's a better actress than I think she got a lot of credit for. Unfortunately, people try to turn her into something that she wasn't, which is this mega icon.
No, she was never going to be a mega icon.
But they tried to do that to her. That was Mark Canton who did that. You know that. Mark Canton, when Mark Canton was running Columbia, when he was running the Columbia Pictures, he was the one that decided he was going to pay Alicia Silverstone $12 million for her next movie, based on Clueless, and everybody was like, "Are you kidding me? Do you realize what you just did? You just raised everyone's quote. with that. You just blew out all of our budgets, and suddenly all the agencies and all the other actors, they're like, if Alicia Silverstone is getting 12, then I expect Demi Moore to get 19, and I think so. And suddenly everybody wanted more, and there were like male actors who were getting, Alicia Silverstone was getting 12, I should get 16, and it started screwing with everybody's bottom line. That's what happened. Mark Canton, it was just this unbelievably irresponsible thing. He decided to pay her like $12 million, and it just killed everything for a while. And then her career tanked, and then everything went back to normal. But
she was worth it.
Anyway. Let's talk about a couple of foreign language films here. One is Camille Claudel, 1915. Now, I am a gigantic, massive, monster fan of the original film Camille Claudel from the 1980s, which starred Isabelle Adjani as the famous French sculptress who, of course, went bonkers later in her career, but who, was an acolyte of Rodin and had an affair with him at one point. And I think that is a positively brilliant film that should be on Blu-ray at some point. For some reason, I can't even find the Blu-ray when I go to Paris. But the original Camille Claudel...
You can go to Paris. You can go to Paris. Go to Paris. Think of me. Go to Paris.
All right, that's what I think of you. But this is not that movie. This entirely takes place in 1915 when Camille Claudel had already been committed to an asylum, and the whole thing takes place inside the asylum with people who, quite frankly, look like they really are in an asylum. I don't think some of these supporting actors actually are actors. I think they just went and recruited a bunch of crazies, and I'm sorry if that's politically incorrect, but man, it's just deeply disturbing. The problem is this movie is just lugubrious. It just drags, and it's just self-indulgent. And Juliette Binoche is wonderful in the lead. I mean, she's really, really good. But the big problem is this is a Bruno Dumont movie. Now, if you're not familiar with Bruno Dumont, D-U-M-O-N-T, he is one of the more cantankerous and self-absorbed of the current crop of French auteurs. And he's a bit of an unpleasant fellow. I have a Bruno Dumont story. This was about 6 or 7 years ago. I was moderating the panel, the Meet the Filmmakers panel at Colcoa, okay, which is where all the filmmakers who've come in who have movies at the City of Lights, City of Angels Film Festival. There's on usually the second afternoon of the festival. There's an introductory afternoon panel, and I've done this a few times, where you sit and you interview them and you talk about them, and everybody talks about this and that and the other thing. And sometimes it goes better than, it's tough talking to like 7 or 8 people all at once and giving everybody their due in about a 45-minute span. It's not easy. But, you go through the motions, and, everybody kind of does it a little bit. And I did this one. Bruno Dumont was there with one of his earlier films. And...
Gesundheit.
Thank you. And a bunch of the other filmmakers were there, and some did comedies and whatnot. And almost immediately, Bruno Dumont, I had some question to him, some benign question, and almost immediately Bruno Dumont basically insults everyone else on the panel. He said something to the effect of, some of us here, come here because we actually make decent films of the art, and we're not just in it to blah, 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 whatever. It was just a complete backhanded slap. It was effectively saying... Yeah, I'm the only person up on this stage who's actually made a real movie, and the rest of these guys and that lady over there, they're all a bunch of frickin' losers, and I want nothing to do with them. That was essentially the gist of what he said. And once he said it in French, you could hear a pin drop, because half the room, if not 2/3 of the room, speak French, and clearly understood what he was doing. And, my friend Robin, who was doing the translation... She was sitting there, and she's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and we're like, I have no idea how we extricate ourselves from this. And everyone else on the panel is squirming, because they all obviously realized Bruno just took a shot at them. And some magical way, Robin came up with a translation that sounded like he wasn't taking a shot at them. She somehow took his insult and spun it into something...
Well, that's not good. The translation should... convey the spirit of the original remark.
Robin saved the evening. I'm just saying, Robin saved that entire event. She saved that entire event.
Lame.
She took the venom, the poison, the bile out of it, and everybody else kind of took a breath, and somehow it got back on track. But man, what a jerk he was. I mean, really, just an unbelievable jerk. It's like there's no sense of graciousness. No sense of appreciation for his peers. Anyway, So, that being said, Camille Claudel, some people love this thing, but I say rent the original. And then The Past from Asghar Farhadi. This was a big deal.
So good.
This was a big deal at the Cannes Film Festival last year.
It's great.
Stars Berenice Bejo, of
Love
course, from The Artist.
Rent it.
And Asghar Farhadi, of course, previously did A Separation, which
Even better.
is one of the great Iranian films of the past 20 years or so. And I have to say, you're more excited about this movie than I am.
Love it.
Well, first of all, Asghar Farhadi, Persian filmmaker, not my kind of Persian filmmaker. I prefer the more poetic guys, the previous generation of Iranian filmmakers.
This guy's a total realist.
He's a total realist. Yeah, he's not one of the sort of existential poetics. He's not like the Makhmalbafs and all those guys. No. But here's the story. You got this woman who has had a series of husbands, and she's living in Paris, and played by, obviously, Berenice Bejo. And Tahar Rahim is one of her ex-husbands who has come from Iran to give her a divorce because she wants to marry a new guy. And there are and then, of course, there's, her kids, and there are all of these revelations. There's a series of sort of cascading revelations in the film that carry the narrative forward. And the thing about Farhadi, as we saw in A Separation, is he's very much a structuralist. He really structures his stories very deliberately, and there's definitely a template for the way all the events fit together. He's very, very focused on screenplay. But I felt the mechanics of the screenplay here. I felt the gears, I felt the turning points, and I got very tired of the fact that nobody in this movie is forthcoming. Every time somebody gives you some revelation, it's only half a revelation. The other half of the revelation comes like 6 or 7 scenes later, and then another 6 or 7 scenes later, there's another part of the revelation that they didn't give you. And no one is completely forthcoming. Everybody just lets their secrets out in a very slow drip, and it feels really contrived to me. I just kept thinking, if everybody had just come clean in the first 5 minutes of this movie, you would have saved me a lot of time, and you would have saved everybody else a lot of trouble, and there never would have been a movie. It just feels really drawn out. It feels really drawn out.
Would you have thought that if this film came before A Separation?
Yeah, I would have, because I'm not that big a fan of A Separation either.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I know the rest of you are all nuts for that movie, but I feel the gears. I respect him as a filmmaker and as a writer, but I feel the gears. I'm very aware of the mechanics. It's like the face of the watch is off. I'm staring at the guts of the thing. I'm looking at the mechanics. I'm not as focused on the elegance and the... stories should feel impromptu. Even if they're very constructed, they should be smoothed over so that there's an impromptu feel to it. I never get the impromptu feel here. I'm very aware of the fact that there's a writer pulling the strings, and he needs to kind of back off a little bit.
Wade, we've learned now that you're lame.
Totally. Absolutely.
You need to do some British crap that no one cares about.
I know. I will get to that in a moment. And then real quickly, as far as older movies, I want to make mention of this. There's a Blu-ray set out, the Best of Bogart collection.
This is good. There's not a ringer in the bunch.
There's not a ringer in the bunch. Now, there are fancier sets for the African Queen and Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon, obviously, and Treasure of Sierra Madre. But you get all of them here with some collectible art cards in one Blu-ray set. So if you don't want to go out and if you haven't actually purchased these movies individually, you can actually get them all now in this one collection, and it's pretty great. A lot of special features, all the real fun stuff that you get in the other sets. That great African Queen documentary and wonderful commentaries here. Rudy Belmer's on Casablanca is fantastic. You get the Roger Ebert commentary on Casablanca as well, and Eric Lax's commentary on Maltese Falcon is pretty fantastic. Tons and tons of extras and really great stuff. So all in one set, not bad at all. Really a great bargain, and that's strictly for people who don't already have any of the other sets. But those other sets are pretty fantastic, especially the anniversary set of Casablanca. So, I recommend this for people who kind of feel like, I'm not going to blow the bank on the anniversary sets and all the additional stuff, and I really don't want to spend waste a lot of shelf space. So. Can't go wrong. Great transfers. And if ultimately all that matters is the movie and the transfer, you can't go wrong. These are great. Maltese Falcon, Casablanca, Treasure of Sierra Madre, and the African Queen, and the Best of Bogart collection from Warner Brothers on Blu-ray.
Wait, on the other end of the spectrum is Together. This is a film starring Nick Cassavetes before he became a director. He, of course, is the son of the great John Cassavetes.
Apple falls really far from the tree with that one.
Exactly. Also, was a very young and pudgy-looking Jeremy Piven. It's also in this. This is from 1992. It's about a man and woman who meet and have lots and lots of sex and lots of alcohol, and then wind up having what they call a Vegas hangover, which means they got married.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, they sober up and realize that they really shouldn't be married, so they get a divorce, and that's when all the fun ensues. This film, I thought, was this is a bizarre little movie. It just it wants to be kind of like almost like a sincere, almost reflective kind of love story, but in the end, I just found it kind of silly. I don't know who's going to possibly rent this together. Maybe fans of maybe Jeremy Piven completists, possibly.
By the way, speaking of that, Mr. Suffrage, his BBC, his British show, where he plays the guy who established the mall, the not the mall, but the department store, the famous department store, Suffrages in London.
Right.
Yeah, that starts again soon. The second season. Love it. It's really good.
Wait, Selfridges or
Suffrages? It's called. You pronounce it Suffrage. It's not Selfridge. It's Suffrage, Mr. Suffrage. Yeah, it's a new season starting up soon.
And Jeremy Piven's in that?
Yeah, he plays Suffrage. He's American. The American guy. He went to London. He introduced Londoners to the department store concept. Didn't you? Don't you know this? Where have you been? What are you in a cave?
I've not been to London in like 15 years. I miss it. I love that town. I used to go there like every couple of years. I'd go spend a week in London. I did. You know that.
Yes, I know.
I flat swapped with our friend Ian.
I know. I remember that. Well, anyway. 1979, there's a really unusual movie that I had never heard of by Stephen Verona called Boardwalk. You familiar with this?
I am not.
1979 movie?
I am not.
Lee Strasberg, Ruth Gordon, and Janet Leigh. 1979, right?
Interesting cast.
Yeah, it's
Flaw.
It's okay. Stephen Verona co-wrote it with Lee Chapman and directed it. And really unusual little independent film. Nicely acted, I guess. It's one of those movies. It's very Altman-esque, I guess, on a certain level. It just feels like some of those movies that Altman was making, like Streamers and a lot of those little very come back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. A lot of that late '70s, early '80s stuff. It feels very kind of fringy, but I don't know. Boy, I got something caught in my throat. Anyway, it takes place in a Brooklyn neighborhood. Behind the boardwalk, where you've got this old dude and his wife, played by Lee Strasberg and Ruth Gordon, and their lives have been tranquil almost to a fault until something happens, and that's where it becomes kind of a theatrical tour de force. And I'm not a huge fan of Strasberg as an acting teacher. I think the method is a bunch of crap. Ruth Gordon, I'm a fan of more as a screenwriter than an actress. I think she just kind of started hamming it up in Rosemary's Baby and never quit.
An Oscar for that.
I know. From Rosemary's Baby through Harold and Maude, she just basically was playing the same character over and over.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But as a screenwriter, she's great. That and Janet Leigh is kind of along for the ride. I gotta be honest. It's it's just a strange movie. But a lot of really great people worked on this. From editor Tom Noble to director of photography Billy Williams, who was one of the two co-winners of the Oscar for Gandhi a few years later. Great British DP. I just don't know what to make of this movie. It's very strange, and I was completely unaware of its existence. So, Boardwalk, Stephen Verona film from 1979. And then before we get into television, a couple of little animated things here to make mention of. For Marvel fans, Avengers Confidential, Black Widow, Punisher. I am beginning to get a little bit tired of all of the superhero animated stuff. It's really overkill. It seems like every week DC comes out with some new Batman and Superman title, and the Avengers stuff never ends. This is really well animated. It has a certain anime quality to it. But I just don't. This feels. In a strange way, this feels like they are trying to use the whole Avengers animated world to sow some seeds for yet another Avengers movie. It all feels kind of mercenary. It feels a little overly cross-pollinative. Is that a word?
I have to say, but you have to admit,
Yeah.
Now, this has nothing to do with the animated version.
Yeah.
It is pretty remarkable what Marvel has done.
It is extraordinary, yes.
3 Iron Man films.
I know.
2 Captain America films.
I know.
1 Avengers film. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you remember when we were kids and it was like there'd be a very special issue of Captain America where like Spider-Man would show up?
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, Spider-Man's going to be in next month's Captain America. It's unbelievable. Imagine like if you knew that when you became an adult,
Yeah.
a studio would spend like, $225 million to see that happen on screen.
Yeah.
And the only bummer is that Spider-Man is owned by Sony.
I know.
That's the bummer.
Well,
They can't
here-
get Spider-Man to an Avengers movie.
Here it feels like they're... I mean, the idea here is basically that Black Widow captures the Punisher, and then Nick Fury sends Punisher and Black Widow out on a mission to stop Leviathan. And it just feels like, okay, so you're planning on introducing the Punisher again for the 3rd time, hoping that the 3rd time's the charm, and then Leviathan's going to somehow show up, and somehow you're just kind of sowing seeds and you're treading water and trying to sort of find a way to I don't know, create a more fertile environment to push this to another level. It's starting to feel very burdensome. I don't like having to keep track of all the Avengers characters and all of their various permutations. I feel it's very exhausting.
Because when we were kids, all we had were the comic books.
Yeah.
We didn't have Blu-rays and DVDs and big budget movies to, fill out the experience. And you wish you had.
I guess. Anyway. And then the last one is Jeff Dunham's Achmed Saves America on Blu-ray, the animated movie. I'm not a huge Jeff Dunham fan. We've talked about Jeff Dunham before. But this is, Achmed, of course, is the dead terrorist. If you either have heard of that or you haven't. Just if you've never heard of Achmed, the dead terrorist, then don't bother. Just tune the podcast out and go somewhere else and eat something or drink something, get a fast food. Anyway, this is just Jeff Dunham's particularly unique sense of humor funneled into an animated movie that was originally aired on Comedy Central, and it's strictly for Jeff Dunham fans. It's very short. It's only an hour long, and it's just it ain't Beavis and Butthead, that's for sure. And I wish it were. Anyway, all right. Mark, television. Tell us what we should watch.
Television, we have Veep. Now, Veep is the Julia Louis-Dreyfus show. This won a couple of Emmys recently. I have to say that I was never a fan of Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I'm not. I don't know why. However, I'm a huge fan of Armando Iannucci, who created the show. Iannucci is the guy who brought us In the Loop, which was absolutely a scathingly hilarious, you must rent it or buy it, political satire. Love that movie. And Iannucci is the guy who created Veep. So there's definitely some great satire going on here, some good laughs. I was never a fan of Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I know I'm in the minority, but there you have it. So this is season 2 of Veep. Of course, the 3rd season starts soon. Check that out. Also, Californication. Boy, that's just one of those shows I never got into. I'm watching this thing going.
I don't get it either.
I
like Duchovny, but I don't get it.
I mean, I'm glad that he found himself a second act after X-Files, as opposed to Gillian Anderson, who had to go all the way to Europe, to find a second act. So I'm glad for Duchovny, but this is just a sex-crazed, culty sort of a show that is slowly coming to an end. And season 6 is on DVD, not Blu-ray, which is, of course, terrible, because these things need to be on Blu-ray.
Yep. All right.
Wait,
yes.
What?
Yes.
I didn't know if you're going to do some British crap no one cares about.
No. I got a few other. We got some other TV stuff here.
We do?
Yes, we do. We sure do. I'm going to blow through these real quickly. Devious Maids, the complete first season. This is Mark Cherry's attempt to basically do Desperate Housewives Redux.
Dud.
Not as good. And it's because the cast isn't as good. It's too bad. I mean, it's kind of a cute idea, but he's trying to skew it younger. He's trying to skew it more millennial. He's trying to, I don't know. He's sort of trying to do the same thing a different way, and that never really works. This is on Lifetime, and it kind of deserves to be on Lifetime, frankly. It doesn't really. I just wish it. I just wish it held together better, but. It's got a little bit of the Mark Cherry thing going. So, if you're a Lifetime fan, maybe this fits the bill. But It didn't really work for me. Continuum Season 2. This is one of those sci-fi series. Mark was talking earlier about how sci-fi is looking for that series, that thing that just takes off and becomes a viral phenomenon and becomes a thing. And this ain't it. This is about a woman who's a cop from the future in the year 2077 who is in the present and trying to stop these terrorists from, doing what terrorists always do in time travel movies, whether it's anything from a Star Trek time travel movie to, Terminator to, any of them. It's just people go back in time to try to screw up the future. I don't really.
Not in Looper.
True, not in Looper, which is why Looper's a little bit better. Thing is, that only works in a framed narrative where you know that you're going to resolve that story. As a kind of a TV concept, it never resolves, so you know that you're always going to be chasing your tail, and that's why I don't think this show works too well. But it's beautifully done, and Rachel Nichols is a very good actress, and I think she's probably got a career in features. So when she's not chained to this thing anymore, look for her to make that jump. And then we have Flashpoint, the final season. This is on DVD, not on Blu-ray. Flashpoint's got a following. I watch it and I just think this is SWAT. That's all it is. It's just SWAT all over again, and I liked it better the first time when it had a better theme song. So this is the last season of that, courtesy of Paramount and CBS DVD. And if you're a fan, you're a fan. If not, you're not. And then Key and Peele. Increasingly very, very funny. This is seasons 1 and 2. These guys are really talented.
You were the one who had me go to YouTube and watch the Liam Neeson thing?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. It's just so funny. You know what? These guys, they are really blowing up big. The whole idea here is it's a little bit like Little Britain. It's almost a Little Britain angle with a couple of guys who sort of a lot of it is racial. They obviously come at it from the point of view of a couple of black American guys, which it feels a little bit like Living Color. It has a little bit of the Living Color sensibility to it. But because it's two guys who are doing everything, it's like Little Britain, and they're unique and they're talented, and some of the stuff works better than the other stuff, but the stuff that really works well works amazingly well. And it's also, they have a great team of people with them who, really direct the hell out of these bits, and it's all very funny. These are seasons 1 and 2, and these guys are going to be starting to do movie stuff very soon. They're
Good Burger 2.
No. They're blowing up big. And hang on, the FBI from this is one of those old Quinn Martin series. This has been slowly released season by season through the Warner Archive collection, and it always bears mentioning because everybody forgets that it's out there. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. was the star of it. And as with all these Quinn Martin shows from the 1960s, a lot of amazing guest spots. Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman, of course, shows up, and a lot of other interesting. John Colicus is in this, by the way. Remember John Colicus?
John Colic?
John Colicus.
Who's that?
Oh my gosh!
John Colicus. Sounds like a monster.
Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, he's cool. He was in Star Trek. He was in a Star Trek episode. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, he was. He played a Klingon.
Yes.
And he was also in one of the best all-time night galleries. Did you ever see the night gallery? He's the guy who's doomed to always be on ships that sink.
I was never a huge night gallery
Oh my
guy.
gosh, it's amazing. It's like he was on the Titanic, and he was on the Lusitania, and he's on the Andre Doria, and he's on every ship that ever. He survives, and then he's on a lifeboat, and the next ship that rescues him is a ship that's going to sink. It's a great night gallery. He's just a loon on it. Anyway, so he's in this as well. And the FBI was a really good show, really solid, well written. But this is the 7th season out from Warner Archive Collection, and they don't show up very often. So keep your eye out for that. Go to WarnerArchive.com.
Wait, speaking of Night Gallery, we have another anthology show called Monsters. Now, this thing never really took off. There's it's on DVD now, 72 episodes on 9 DVDs in a box set. Now, just to give you a sense of the quality of Monsters, I'm going to read to you some of the featured performers, some of the guest stars.
Oh, dear.
You ready?
Yeah.
Adrienne Barbeau.
Oh, my gosh. She was married to John Carpenter.
Frank Gorshin.
He was married. No, he wasn't.
He was not married to John Carpenter.
He was married to Batman.
Tori Spelling. John Saxon.
John Saxon was in Enter the Dragon.
Billy Drago.
Yeah, Billy Drago. I don't believe that's his real name. I've never believed that.
Anyway, so it's this. I found none of these even remotely worthy of 1 second of a Twilight Zone. Now the effects are more elaborate. It's more horrific because it's about monsters. But I'll take Twilight Zone any day of the week over monsters.
All right. And then wrapping out television, a couple of animated things here. Winx Club, the complete original season 1. I can't say that I really endorse this. Having a little girl is basically about a bunch of crime-fighting fairies. And it's got that whole funky animation. They got pointy chins, and it's got that whole nouveau animation look that's so hot right now that I don't particularly care for. But it's I prefer Josie and the Pussycats in outer space personally, and then also the Venture Brothers, the 5th season on Blu-ray, which has a couple of bonus specials on it as well. As with all this Adult Swim stuff, it continues to completely escape me. But the Venture Brothers and their strange, gadgety, hyper-futuristic adventures, just, I guess, anybody who likes to build crap, anybody who likes, the science of animated engineering, I guess this is a very popular show. But it's like, to me, it's like Johnny Quest meets Professor Gadget. What was his name? Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Gadget. Go Gadget.
Yeah, whatever. I hated that show.
What?
Hated it.
Really?
Oh,
it's Don Adams.
Worst.
Don Adams.
Hated
Get smart.
No, I know. I hated it. Never liked it at all. Let me, just real quickly, a bunch of really cool titles from First Run Features, who releases all their stuff now in this eco packaging. There's these little thin eco packaging things. They've released a lot of really cool titles in recent weeks. I'm just going to name a few of these for those who it's all very specialized. So if this is your thing, you'll be totally into it. Documentarian Alan Miller made a great movie called Speak the Music: Robert Mann and the Mysteries of Chamber Music. Robert Mann is one of the great American violinists of all time. He's played forever in the Juilliard String Quartet. This is all about his expertise. He's a really colorful character. He's wonderful. Buying Sex is a movie about the debate over legalizing prostitution. And it doesn't really, if you're for it, you're for it. If you're against it, you're against it. This isn't really going to change your opinion one way or the other, but it really does immerse you in the world of prostitution in a very upsetting and disturbing and unsettling way. It's not going to change anyone's mind, but it certainly de-glamorizes that world. I'll tell you, if anybody still thought that it was like really cool to be a hooker and to be, part of that world, you got another thing coming. The Last Elvis is a really interesting Brazilian movie about a guy who is an Elvis impersonator in Buenos Aires and how his life changes in some rather critical ways and forces him to sort of reevaluate his priorities. Interesting character study, very nicely done. One of the better recent Brazilian imports, and they just don't get here very often. Directed by a guy named Armando Bo. Great performance by John McEnery and Griselda Siciliani. It's a good film. And then Happy House. Very interesting little independent film about a couple from Brooklyn who are trying to fix their marriage at this bed and breakfast, and it turns out to not be even remotely what they thought it was. It is dark and funny and terrifying and weird and very Lynchian in all the best possible ways. This film should have had a much, much bigger following. It should have been released theatrically in a big way. Did not get it, but it's really well worth looking at. To Dance Like a Man is about these 3 triplets from Cuba who are pretty spectacular dancers. If they weren't triplets, I'm not sure they would have a movie here, but it's a real fun movie, and it's about an hour long and a wonderful tribute to dance just in general. People of a Feather is... I don't want to say it's a global, it doesn't really dovetail too much with global warming, but it is certainly a wonderful look at life in the Arctic, and this was shot over the course of 7 winters in the Arctic, by the way, so it took a long time to make this movie. It obviously global climate change does play a part in this, but don't think that this is like a movie that's lecturing and preaching, the woes of climate change to you. It's a character study. It's a look at a way of life that's vanishing, and that will continue to vanish even if climate change is reversed. So really, really interesting kind of look at Inuit lifestyles and vanishing way of life. And then lastly, the Euler House, Richard Neutra's Desert Retreat. Richard Neutra, of course, the amazing, legendary architect who was asked in 1959, who was hired to design a home for a guy named Richard Euler out in the desert, and they forged a friendship, and the result was the Euler House, which is one of these extraordinary kind of Frank Lloyd Wright-ish landmarks in American architecture, and this is all about that effort. So that's really interesting as well. So a lot of great stuff from First Run Features.
Oh, from the Milestone Company, we often talk about Milestone stuff. We have a great film called Comeback Africa. Comeback Africa was directed by Lionel Rogerson, and also on this DVD, it's a film about apartheid, and it's just wonderful. Also included here is another Rogerson film called Black Roots, which is a great documentary that includes, it's music and it's spoken word and poetry. It's a great encapsulation of the black experience. And so it's two really good films, all about African American concerns. It's packaged in a Blu-ray called Comeback Africa. Highly recommended, Wade.
Fantastic. Sweet. And I want to give a shout-out real quickly to some new titles from Megahertz Networks, who keeps bringing all of these fantastic foreign-language documentary TV shows, not documentary, but foreign-language detective shows from other countries to the U.S., stuff that just nobody else is touching, a lot of great shows in other countries. And because for some reason people love bringing foreign-language movies over, but they don't like bringing foreign-language television shows. So we get this fascinating Swedish show, a lot of really good stuff, Crimes of Passion, which is the first 6 episodes of this fascinating whodunit show, which takes place right after World War II in Sweden. And they're really great whodunits. I've seen so many whodunits, I thought I've seen enough Columbo and Murder, She Wrote to last a lifetime, and then I can figure all this stuff out. Man, cannot wrap myself around these. They are really, really hard to get around. And then the first 2 seasons of Braquo. Braquo is a French series that is pretty gritty and pretty tough. It is surprisingly gritty, actually, for a French show. I was shocked. The French don't usually make stuff on the level of The Wire and some of that tougher kind of cable stuff. But man, this is really, really good, and it's pretty close, actually. I would say to the stuff that the French, the gritty part of the French police have to actually deal with. So. A lot of really good writing here in the first 2 seasons of Braquo, Braquo.
Barack Obama?
Exactly. And then we've talked about Spiral previously. Spiral is another French series. This is season 3 of Spiral. And this is also a cop thriller show. It takes place in Paris. And I would say not as good as Braquo, but pretty great. Pretty great just the same. So the French stuff is getting better and better. And tribute to all the good people at Megahertz Networks for bringing all this stuff over. Really good. Let's see what else we've got here. A few British things. I'll just make quick mention of some of these British shows. Acorn has released the complete collection of William and Mary, which stars Martin Clunes and Julie Graham, both of whom have gone on to other shows. Doc Martin, of course, is what Clunes is best known for. But William and Mary is a very sweet show, wonderful following. Map and Lucia, the complete collection, is also out. That's another lovely show based on the books by E.F. Benson. Each of the previous seasons has been released individually, but you get all 6 hours in one fantastic shot here. So that's for those fans as well. They have also released from PBS the Classic English Literature Collection, Volume 2. This is something that PBS does from time to time, where they take a lot of their previous releases and put them into a nice box set. And if you have not previously bought The Mystery of Edwin Drood, Mansfield Park, The Turn of the Screw, or A Room with a View, you might want to pick up all of them in this. Now, mind you, this is not Mansfield Park and Room with a View, the the more well-known feature-length versions. These are the ones that were done for British television, and of course, some of these, like The Mystery of Edwin Drood, are also available on Blu-ray, which this does not have. This is strictly a DVD collection. So maybe a Blu-ray set will show up at some point if they feel the need to put Mansfield Park, Turn to the Screw, and Room with a View on Blu-ray. But at present, this is if you just only want the DVDs, it's a perfectly great option. And then Hetty Wainthrope Investigates. This is also from Acorn. Stars Patricia Rutledge, who most of you know from her fantastically hilarious turn in Keeping Up Appearances. She's not funny here. Here she's much more of in a Murder, She Wrote detective vein, and she's great, and it's a really, really good show that ran for a while on PBS Mystery. And you get the complete series here now in a nice Acorn 12-disc set. And then Acorn has also released Series 1 of Mr. and Mrs. Murder, which I had never even heard of before. And, it's not bad, actually. Better than average kind of a, husband and wife mystery show. I will say it is it does feel a little bit sometimes like a ripoff of Heart to Heart. But it's okay, certainly entertaining on every conceivable level. So even if it's not brilliant, it's serviceable. Mark, are you still around? Mark? Yes.
Hi, Wade.
Hi there. Mark's doing his laundry. Okay.
I am not.
Take it over.
Why are you giving me the Israel stuff? You give me the Israel stuff because I'm Jewish?
Because I'm not qualified. I am not of the tribe.
Israel, the Royal Tour with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Peter Greenberg. This is, I skimmed through this. I thought it was pretty good.
He just effed up the traffic in Malibu the other day.
Did he?
Yeah, he went to some party at somebody's house. I forget who it was. It was somebody threw a party for him in one of the beach billionaire blanket bingo movies. Anyway, the government shut down one of the lanes on Pacific Coast Highway and screwed up traffic for like 20 hours.
Damn Jews.
Yeah.
See, it turns out they own Hollywood. They really do own Hollywood. Anyway, so this particular tour of Israel has been traversed many times before, but not with Netanyahu, which I guess is a good thing. Netanyahu and Peter Greenberg, they visit the Sea of Galilee, and they raft on the Jordan River, and they go to all sorts of crazy places in Israel. And it's interesting. You hear a lot about history of Israel, history of Netanyahu. And of course, Netanyahu's thoughts on the Middle East, and we all know he comes from a much more hawkish perspective than some of the previous.
Well, his brother was a war hero. I never knew
right.
that before.
That's right. Anyway, so Israel, the Royal Tour. Now, Wade and I love North Korea more than anything in the entire world, even though we know that North Korea is a horrible, terrible, despotic power. We find them hilarious. We find them hilarious because they think they scare us, have us quaking in our boots, but we laugh at them.
Yeah.
Because they're ridiculous. I mean, stop that.
Yeah, well, they're trying to be a lot more intimidating than ridiculous at a certain point.
Well, they always do.
Yeah.
It's a joke. Stop that.
Yeah, well.
Stop. Don't slap around.
Okay.
A little impetuous little child.
Yeah.
Anyway, The Secret State of North Korea is one in a series of many documentaries about North Korea. However, this frontline version is all about life in North Korea under Kim Jong-un, the latest Kim to assume power in North Korea. And it's great because it's awesome. Because I just love watching inside footage of North Korea.
I hear you.
I mean, come on.
All right. And we got a bunch of really cheesy kind of horror stuff, a lot of zombies and viruses and various things like that. But this stuff has a following, so here we go. From CG Entertainment, a Korean film called Flu, which is another one of these horrible virus movies done with the panache of the Koreans. And we've seen the whole virus thing. The virus takes over everybody. It's all kind of a way of trying to tell a zombie tale without actually using the word zombie. I don't know. It's perfectly fine. It's apocalyptic and adequate. Didn't scare me a whole lot though. Tom Holland's Twisted Tales. Tom Holland, of course, directed Child's Play originally, and this is an anthology, 9 different tales in the the classic horror anthology vein. It's not as good as Tales from the Dark Side. It's not as good as Twilight Zone. It's not as good as Night Gallery or, frankly, any other anthology that I can think of. But a couple of them are actually pretty good, and some of the others are decent. Some of the actors in here are really good. So, it's a middling anthology effort. From the Accelerator Macabre line, Macabre by Accelerator, is Outpost, Rise of the Spetsnaz. This is another one of those zombie tales that tries to sort of... this is, by the way, the third in this series, which they're Nazi zombies. Bottom line, if you're on board with the whole Spetsnazi zombie Nazi thing, and if you saw the first two films, you'll totally vibe to this. If not, there's really kind of no point to watching it. 20 Feet Below, The Darkness Descending is a Danny Trejo movie. That should tell you absolutely everything that you need to know. Everything. Danny Trejo has become a franchise unto himself in just the last few years. Machete did wonders for his career. It literally turned him into a like straight to video, straight to DVD icon in the most bizarre way. And he was always a solid supporting player in movies, but he never was a guy. He was never the lead. He was never a name that would actually sell a title, and he is now. And so here it's he's in a strange, bizarre way. He has become kind of an anti-action hero, is probably the only way to say it. This is another one of those films. Danny Trejo, you're supposed to root for him, and somehow we do. End of the World is another one of these ridiculous kind of apocalyptic, low-budget movies that tries to foretell the horrible things that are going to happen to the Earth based on fill in the blank. In this case, it's electromagnetic blasts that are the root of our doom. And it's preposterous and the effects are poor, but it... whatever. And then lastly, a couple more zombie things from Screen Media Darkside, Battle of the Undead. Doesn't really add anything to zombie lore, but obviously writer, producer, director Eitan Gaffney feels that he needs to put his mark on the whole zombie thing. So there it is. And this adds a little bit of a terrorist angle to it. And then also from the Screen Media Darkside is Army of the Damned with only one thing going for it. You know what that is, Mark?
It's only 90 minutes.
Michael Berryman.
Is that the guy with the weird
face? Hills Have Eyes, Michael Berryman. The guy who was born with such an odd look that he had to be in movies.
He was in Star Trek 5.
Because nobody's going to hire him to do retail.
He was in Star Trek 5.
I know, but no one's going to hire him to do retail. Anyway, this is, it's just another zombie movie, except it's got Michael Berryman in it. It all takes place in a small town, and there it is. Michael Berryman kind of looking less scary, by the way, as he gets older. I have to say, he's kind of growing into his looks.
It took him long enough.
It did, right?
He earned that.
Yeah. All right. So there we are, and that is it for this week. Come on back with us next week. We're going to have a lot of really some amazing stuff coming up. I got to be honest.
What?
Some amazing titles. Some
King
amazing
of Comedy
stuff.
is coming up on Blu-ray. The King of Comedy.
Amazing stuff next week. Next week we're going to have some amazing stuff. It's going to be a really, really good show. See you next week.